Wonderful.
Media's Mining Weekly is interviewing Dr. Martin Schichtel, the co-founder and CEO of Kraftblock, a company involved with using thermal storage to decarbonize mining. With so much excitement around the contribution of the mining industry to the overall green economy initiatives, how can the mining operations themselves, the places where all the action takes place, become greener, cleaner, and more economical?
Mining industry is very much involved in the energy transition itself, right? So just think about all the raw materials that are needed for PV, for the copper grid, and all the other stuff we need to do this energy transition. So I think it would get even more important in the future. But how can mining industry do this change? How can they undergo this change? Basically, we are talking about energy efficiency in one point, and on the opposite side, we are talking about renewables. How can we introduce renewable? How can we introduce intermittent energies into the mining operations itself, into the smelting process, into the calcination process, into digestion, and so on? And these are the questions that actually also are driving us as Kraftblock to take part of this story to make the mining industry greener. Not talking about, let's say, purity of water, and not talking about a couple of other things, but just focusing on the energy demand. And there, the combination, I think, of green electron and increase of energy efficiency is both pretty positive for the ecological reasons, for the race against climate change. But on the opposite side, it probably also makes the process more economic and so more attractive for the customers itself.
And Martin, what becomes of the operational heat that is not recovered and not stored and is left to its own resources?
Yeah, that's the crazy part of this story. Usually where you operate an oven, a furnace, a kiln, a calciner, there is a kind, we call it waste heat, right? Because it's generated. And sometimes, and in the more modern industries, it's already used partially in the process, not to 100%. So usually 60 to 80% might be reused, but there is still a good capacity we will be able to utilize to increase the efficiency. Otherwise, it's just going to the atmosphere, right? So it's pure lost energy. And especially the mining industries paid for it because they bought gas, for example. They burned it and just lose it to the atmosphere. Doesn't make any sense either from the environment side nor from the cost side. So the ambition would be harvest this energy, in our case, store it and take it even to another process instead the process where it was coming from.
And how does thermal storage ensure that intermittent renewable energy is available at all times, and how clean and green is such renewable energy?
And so storage, thermal storage at the end is storing heat, right? Basically heat. And a storage is nothing else but a buffer, means you can decouple energy generation from the energy demand. And that's the perfect use case for intermittent energy, especially renewable electricities, being it from PV or being it from wind energy, because there are a lot of fluctuations. So the storage can buffer this energy while it's getting produced and can discharge it to the mining site, to the production, to the operation whenever it's needed. And exactly that's also the point to make the mining industry more green, right? Especially if we go just for PV, just for wind or water power, then we do have the green electron, which can support the transition to a renewable, to a sustainable mining process pretty strong.
And Martin, where have you succeeded in using thermal heat to decarbonize operations?
We started the earliest project already 5 years ago. Similar industry, it's the ceramics industry, where we installed a system which is just harvesting the energy, the thermal energy during the oven run, so ramping up of a batch-driven furnace and the calcination step for this furnace. We harvest the waste energy, so not letting it into the atmosphere, but putting it to our storage device. And when the next batch gets heated up, we release the stored heat back to the furnace. So we heat our storage heat the oven from room temperature up to 400 degrees. And from that on, the gas burners start firing. which has two effects, of course, reducing emissions, saving energy. So this customer can save 15 to 70% of gas, natural gas in this process, but also improving the quality of the ceramic material. In this case, there's a process called debindering, right? So you release organics from the ceramics before it's getting calcinated. And the storage can control the temperature increase very, very fast and very precise. So the bindering is getting more efficient, more effective, which results even in a better quality of the ceramics. This is the part of waste heat recovery. And we are talking also about the green electron renewables, how making processes fully sustainable, fully renewable. There we are in the final phase of the execution of a project in the food industry, where we replace a 25 megawatt gas-fired boiler against the green electron. So we convert electricity to heat, we store it, and this process just takes 4 to 6 hours every day, but we release it 24/7 to the production facility itself. So they completely can replace the fossil fuel. And in this case, actually, it doesn't make any difference for us whether we generate steam for a mining process or steam, for example, in the food industry. Technically seen, it's the same.
And Martin, how long do these systems that you put in take to pay for themselves?
Basically, the use case is depending on the location. So we know from the systems in waste heat recovery that they have payback times between 1.5 years and 3 years maximum, which is fairly good for most of the industries. Electrification of heat might be a bit different because it strongly depends at the end from the price difference, gas versus the green electron. But if you go for renewables, in countries like Spain, in the US, in California, in Southern Europe, in the MENA regions, for example, Australia as well, renewables are that cheap that they can easily compete against the gas price. And then we would suggest payback times would be between 3 and maybe 6 years, depending on where we are.
And finally, Martin, what in your view should be the big takeaway from this interview we're doing now?
The big takeaway is that there are options in the market to A, make processes greener, and B, really convert established industries to a sustainable, greenified business model. And all those options, especially like high temperature energy storage, which were not that known in the market, are there here today, and we can use it now to make things better.
That was Creamer Media's Mining Weekly, speaking to Dr. Martin Schichtel, the co-founder and CEO of Kraftblock, a company involved with using thermal storage to decarbonize mining.